Welcome to the Real Estate Tech Show, where two of the nation's top experts on real estate share with you their favorite tech tools, tips, and tricks to help you explode your real estate business in productivity and profits. So get strapped in, because Cory and Joe are about to lead you behind the curtain of the most relevant and effective real estate investing tools and strategies on the planet, starting right now.
What's up, Joe McCaw?
You're a dork, you know that? What's up, Cory? Doing great,
10.
man. Say it again?
Episode 10.
This is awesome. Can you believe it? We made it this far.
We made it this far.
And we're still friends.
Yes, that's right. That's always a good thing. People are downloading, obviously, the toolkit, the toolbox that we have, and they can, where they text the 38470, magically get the link sent down, sent from heaven down to them.
You got to send the word tech, T-E-C-H. Yes. You got to text the word tech to 38470.
Yep.
And we'll send you our toolkit, our top 10 favorite tech tools.
Yes.
And why you need to be using them.
Yes. And also, we got the website, right, which we're excited about, the realestatetechshow.com. We actually had to get that domain, which we're super excited about, but we did that for you so we can continue to add more show notes and make the site better, to add more tools. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about all about time management today. Joe, are you good at time management?
No.
I struggle with it.
I'm not. And you know what? I thought of this. Somebody sent me a blog post today by a guy that I've interviewed before in my podcast. His name is Josh. I'm going to mess up his last name, but Josh Shaunly. And we'll try to put a link to this blog post in the show notes.
Okay.
realestatetechshow.com. But I've never been good at time management, man. In fact, I've always worked best under pressure, like last minute, got to get it done.
Yes.
And so I get it done. And so I always feel horrible about that. But one of the things, let me just read to you the 9 tips that he has here real quick.
Perfect.
And then I know Cory is a lot better at time management than I am. So I started this before we started recording. I said, hey, let's talk about time management. And what are some of the tech tools that you use to help you manage your time? And so this is part of a selfish reason I want to do this and talk about it on the show, because I'd like to learn more from Cory how you do this stuff. But let me just read you the 9 tips that Josh gives in this blog post. Number 1, focus on one thing at a time. Number 2, block out hours of your day. Number 3, have one major focus for the day.
I like that.
And I use the momentum a lot. The momentum
yes, we do.
add-on in Chrome, have one major focus for the day. Block out the same time each day to implement things. Make progress every day, just a little bit of progress. Find an accountability partner. I don't like that thing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like accountability partners. No, but anyway. Number 7, forgive yourself when life goes off the rails. Number 8, focus on the lowest hanging fruit. And number 9, use tools and websites or apps to reach your goals.
Good.
And so I just gave you the highlights from that blog post, and we'll try to put the show notes to that. But it's important just to keep it really, really simple. One of the biggest reasons why I get overwhelmed is because I try to take on too much. I try to do too much, and I overcommit and overpromise. And then when I finally have a chance to sit down and focus, I don't even have any idea where to start. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, we live in a world, I don't know how many, it's over 6,000 advertisements a day that we're being, constantly bombarded with, and it's not getting any easier, right? So the sooner that we get the conscious level of understanding that our attention is one of the most valuable things that we have, and what all the advertisers want from us is our attention. Then if we realize, I don't know about you, Joe, but when you start realizing something, like, oh, that's what you want from me. So then you start to realize how valuable that is to yourself. Now, and it makes sense, right? Like, with Chloe or with Nick, we just recently went on Labor Day trip and camping, and it was really fun. We got out in the fishing and did all these fun things, right? And, Chloe wants to have so much attention, right? She wants to have the attention. But you have to ask the question behind that. Why do you want to have the attention And it's because that's valuable to her. She feels known. She feels respected. So all of these things that these advertisers want from us, we often don't put that value on it in our own lives, right? Because we just give it away freely. I'm like you, Joe. If someone asks me to do something, I'll just like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just do it, right? Even though 4 other people have asked me to do something, right? And where is my commitment to that, right? If we're not careful, then we tend to just do things out of convenience, right? Someone calls you, it's just going to take 5 minutes. Well, 10 things that take 5 minutes, now you have a whole hour gone, right? So we can't rely on that. We have to rely on, I think, systems and tools, right? And obviously, in the world of real estate and technology and combining these two together, one of the advantages of that is saving time, but also it is making the most of the time that you have. Once you have it, how do you make the most of that time? So what are some things that you do, Joe, that you make the most of the time that you have once you have it there to get something accomplished?
A white pad or a yellow pad of paper.
Okay.
And I typically will try to just write down like 3 things I want to get done that day. And that 3 things grows into this really long list. And but that does help because I keep things I keep a lot of tasks written down on online tools, on tech tools like Things. We talked about something called an app called Things. I've used that a lot. But just if I can get it on pen and paper, it helps me be more focused for the day, right? Yeah. But I also I try really hard to time block. I say, okay, I'm going to block aside this time to work on this one thing.
Yes.
And you got to give yourself some grace too. I don't know if that answers your question, but we can't be so hard on ourselves. And I think so many people beat themselves up, don't they? Because they're not as productive as they want to be.
We beat ourselves up. And then we feel guilty often when we're not working. So it works the opposite as well because we can put ourselves in a place where we're working all the time and then that is our MO. So we're not doing it. We don't have this other idea that as much, and even I would say even at this day and age now, in my 20s, I would think I'd put in a lot more hours and work. But as I've gotten a little bit older and I've realized another perspective, depending on how old you are when you're listening to this, my perspective now is it's just as important to unplug and recharge everything going on, right? That could be taking a vacation every 3 months. And I know some people listening are saying, I haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. Some people wear that as a badge of honor. I did for many years. I used to joke around and see people take vacations. I think, what are they doing? They're slacking. They're taking they're slacking off. They can't handle the pressure, right? You got to get out of the kitchen if you can't handle the heat, that kind of thing. Well, and I think it's even depending on who you're listening to and who your mentors are these days, you can get these guys that tell you work all the time, right? And I think there's definitely a value to putting in consistent and intentional work. What I'm not a big fan of is just being busy for the sake of being busy. And the funny thing is, and I don't have this study, but I will put this in the show notes. I will find it. There was a study done that went through the average worker at a company, how much time that they actually are productive for the company.
Yeah.
And out of an 8-hour workday, Joe, and it was like
3 or 4 hours, wasn't it?
It was less than 3 hours, right? So what do you do for 5 hours is you give away your attention. So you asked about some of the things you do about time blocking, right? So some great tools to use for time blocking, because I'm a big fan of that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's a technique that many of folks have heard. If you haven't heard of it, it's called the Pomodoro Technique. Mm-hmm. And it actually is named that from a little Pomodoro tomato timer that, you set it for a certain amount of time and go off. Well, there has been extensive research on if you have these kind of hyper-focused moments or lots of time, blocks of time, and then you take a break. So the Pomodoro Technique is 25 minutes on. And by the way, we're going to put a free, what's called a tomato timer, but it's online. We'll put that in our show notes for you to use. But essentially, you go in and you put in 25 minutes of concerted block time for one activity. Yep. And you get that one activity accomplished and knocked out. And then you take a 5-minute break. Mm-hmm. And it has a little ding noise that pops up, whenever your 25 minutes comes on. But the whole trick is staying focused and blocking everything out on your world for those 25 minutes. Then on the 5 minutes, you actually get up, you stretch, right? You get up, you stretch. I actually do jumping jacks. So believe it or not, if you do jumping jacks, it's one of the exercises that uses everything in your body. You're using your legs, you're using your stomach, you're using your hands, and it really for a little 25 seconds, 30 seconds of jumping jacks, it gets a lot of energy and it gets a lot of blood flowing. I also do this technique where I breathe in and I breathe out really quickly. So I'll go. And I'll just breathe in my lungs for about 10 seconds or so, just to get in some blood flow. You also see this little fit desk that's right here next to me, Joe. So I'll get on this little fit desk over here, and I'll just pedal, and I can put my laptop over here. Okay, I can put my laptop on this little fit desk, and that's a good way to kind of break up that monotony of where you are and getting that energy. Because the point is, once you take that 5-minute break, right, you just kind of disconnect for a little bit and get away from that situation or that particular focus that you're working on. You might go outside. That's another thing too. I know where you live, you got trees out there. You can just kind of walk around for 5 minutes, and then you come back and you set another 25 minutes and you do the same thing. And you do this for 100 minutes, essentially. Mm-hmm. And on your last, on your last break, you don't take a 5-minute break. You take a longer break. You take usually a 25 or a 15 to 20-minute break on your last kind of Pomodoro. So what are some good apps to use for that? Yeah. So the app that I use that has a Pomodoro timer built into it is called Focus at Will. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll put this in the show notes as well. It has a fantastic mobile app that goes along with the browser a part of it as well. And I think it's $10 a month, and you get like 2 months free if you buy it for the whole year. So $100 investment. Yeah. What it is, it's science behind focus and concentration. So they have spent so much time going in and finding out what makes our stimuli focus the most for certain people, right? Yeah. So for some people listening, you have severe ADHD. You're just everything's going. For other people listening, you just have to be really relaxed, and that's when you tend to get the most things accomplished. So they have these different levels and different music types and sounds. So they're not lyrics to this. It's sounds. Yeah. And these sounds will trigger certain things in your brain to make you more productive. Okay. What I love about it is that there's a little chart in there that says, after you did your techniques, after you did your Pomodoros, it asks you, how productive were you during that session? Were you 100% productive? You got things done? Were you 75% productive? Were you 50? And so as you start to answer these truthfully, then you start to see, oh, wow, maybe I should test this other music sound. And let me see if maybe I'm more productive with that one, And so it really is a way to have a metric and test your concentration. So it looks really good. This looks really good. Focus at Will. Focus at Will. We'll put it in the show notes. They have a good iPhone app. A great iPhone app. They have a classical, Einstein Genius, Focus Spa, Up-Tempo, Alpha Chill. I use Alpha Chill a lot. And Joe, I'll turn one on here just so we can hear it. This is Alpha Chill. You can kind of hear Joe? It. Yeah. Let me turn it up a little bit. Hear that? Yep. So that's that alpha chill at mid-level. I can move it to a high level, which is called an energy boost or a high level. This is high level. So that's as you're working, imagine 25 minutes with that in your ear. Okay. Or maybe you like really like water sounds behind you or more ambient sounds.
That sounds like someone's going to the bathroom. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm not listening to that one either. Let's but here maybe you like ADHD, so this is really intense. And the drums start kicking in. Right? Or maybe you like Einstein or classical. And I listen to a lot of classical too because it's soothing, you know, and so you have to find out what it is that makes you more productive. And maybe it's nothing at all. Maybe you don't need to listen to anything at all. Maybe just the value of quiet to you is something, and that's fine too.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's got the Pomodoro timer built into it, and it's a really great app, Joe.
I like that. What else? What other things besides Focus at Will could somebody use?
So another thing is that is really simple on everyone's phone is they can just use their timer.
Yep.
And you know, believe it or not, you will usually you'll tend to just use the thing that's the fastest at the time.
Yeah.
So what's good about the timer is that if you go in and on your, like for me, it's this clock on my iPhone, right? And clock, and I'll go in, I'll hit edit, and you want to hit that little plus sign, and you can just create a little timer. Maybe you just call yours productivity timer. And then you always have it there. So that's your productivity timer. You just set your timer, and you might set it for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. The point is you want to set it for a block time and then get everything that you want to accomplish in that blocked period. And there's a mindset that kind of goes with this, Joe, that I've used for many, many years, and it has to do with hypotheticals. And what I do is what I call this is my doctor appointment technique. And my doctor appointment technique is imagine you're at the doctor and someone needs to get a hold of you. What do you tell the doctor, hold on 1 second, let me take this phone call? No, you don't do that. Right? One, is disrespectful to him. Two, you're probably paying for the session. Three, it can wait. But all these other things in our lives we don't feel like can wait. We're reactive to things, right? And we create these patterns for people that says, whenever I email or text or whatever, and I get a response this fast, we're creating those kind of things for people, for the expectations. But the doctor appointment technique has to do with you feeling like whatever you set your timer for is a doctor appointment. So someone tries to get a hold of you, unless they're dying or it's, one of your kids or something like that, right? You can have probably two exceptions.
Yeah.
You just don't mess with it. You're at the doctor, right? It's just a hypothetical, but it's a mindset shift that says, oh, I have to get this done and nothing can interrupt me from that space. Does that make sense?
Well, that's very good. Very good. And, it reminded me, too, I have another app that I've used before. It's an application on the iPhone. It's called BeFocused. It's one word, BeFocused, and it's similar to, it's used as a Pomodoro technique. But there's a free version and there's a premium version. The free version has ads.
Okay.
But you can put your tasks in here. You could set a timer to it, and then you just click go. And I don't know if it does music or not. But it gives you charts of the dates, the tasks, your work intervals, the tasks you completed, the duration. And so I think, I'm not good at it. I've never really used this, but you can have different music you can add to it from your iPhone. It's not going to give you any music, but you can choose the work intervals, the short breaks, the long breaks. How long you get, after how many intervals do you get the long break?
That's nice.
How many intervals do you get per day? And it's pretty simple, right? And there's a lot of apps like this out there. But I'm not talking about this like I'm an expert or anything, because I definitely need help with this thing. But I think my biggest takeaway is be realistic. I love the analogy of the big rocks and the small rocks and the sand, right? You can't put all of that stuff into the jar unless you do the big things first. And so sometimes I'll just think about when I go to bed at night, I think about, all right, when I wake up tomorrow morning, what are the one or two things that are going to be stressing me out the most, like that I just got to take care of? What are my big rocks? And if I write that down the night before, then when I wake up in the morning, I feel so much better because I know what I'm going to be focusing on, right? And I'm not going to let the tyranny of the urgent take over, because I just got to get those things done.
Right.
And I feel so much better.
I like that, the tyranny of the urgent. We tend to do things that are the easiest, right? In the morning, or the things that we think we set down our desk and we're going to do something. We start thinking, well, what's the thing I can knock out in 2 minutes? What's the thing I can knock out in 4 minutes? And the challenge to that is think about the thing that's the hardest. Think about the thing that you don't want to do, the thing you're going to put off till the end. Because if you, there's a great book by Brian Tracy called Eat This Frog, right? And it's we'll put this in the show notes as well. We'll have a ton of links in this show notes, because this is the hot topic, and we're both learning to be better at it. But these are some great tools to use. The Eat This Frog First book is, about basically what's that thing in the morning that you need to knock out. Jesse Itzler, another guy that you should definitely be paying attention to right now. He has a Facebook page. It's called Do Hard Stuff, or Hard Stuff, where basically he challenges people to do something very, very hard, and to get them prepared for being a warrior, essentially. Because no one is going to. Here's the greatest thing about being a business owner, and here is the biggest challenge about being a business owner: freedom. What everybody wants is the very thing that can eat you alive if you don't respect it and you don't take it serious. When people say, when I get freedom, they think I can just go and have a good time, party, and everything's going to take care of itself. It does not work that way. You have to set up systems. You have to have other people doing things when you're taking off, so you don't have to do them. And it takes setting up some of those things first. But even before that, it takes the mindset, and it takes really understanding what you want to accomplish, how long it's probably going to take, and setting aside that time to knock out those things that are, quote, considered priorities. So my challenge to you listening is think about things that you're getting done on a daily basis and ask yourself, do those have to get done by you? Because time management really has to do with energy management, right, Joe?
That's a good point.
We only have a certain amount of energy that we're allowed to essentially, use the most of. There's all kinds of studies that say, oh, it's in the morning, or it's in the, some people it's at night for them because of the way their schedule is. But whatever it is for you, get clear on when is that your most productive. And guard that. That's your attention time. Guard that and get focused.
Are you allowed to drink coffee during that time?
Yes.
Cory?
Yeah, you can drink coffee. You can have juices. You can have.
I started drinking bulletproof coffee recently.
Bulletproof is good. I did the bulletproof for a while. Now I use Death Wish coffee now.
I heard you were talking about that.
Yeah, Death Wish coffee. Bulletproof is good because it has the MCT oil and some other. But you can buy the MCT oil and the grass-fed butter on Amazon, and it's together, so you don't have to put it in separately. But there's some other benefits. I'm glad you like Bulletproof. Dave Asprey is somebody to definitely watch and pay attention to what he's done with Bulletproof, and he's built a brand around Bulletproof too. Yeah.
One of the things while you were talking reminded me of a book that I bought that I've read half of, but it was really good. The half that I did read. It's by Dan Kennedy, The No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I love that book.
Really good book.
Yes.
And I just love his brutal, he's brutal when it comes to managing his time.
Yes.
And who he lets into his world and when.
Yes.
And so sometimes you just got to be a mean old jerk sometimes when it comes to managing. I'm not saying that Dan Kennedy's a mean old jerk, but you need to be firm with that stuff. What are do you have any other tools that you use on your phone,
you mentioned momentum. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? We both use that. It really is a pretty helpful, because I can see it. It's a visual thing in my browser every time I launch it.
I don't like today's picture. It's some kind of Asian temple, like some Buddhist temple next to some mountain.
Right.
But normally, 9 times out of 10, it gives you a really nice, when you open a new tab in your browser, in your Chrome browser, it gives you a really nice, beautiful picture. It says, "Good morning, Joe." And it says, "What is your main focus for today?" And so if I type in there, work on focus. So I'm going to work on focusing today. And then I hit enter, and it'll save that, and it'll put down just one thing. You can only put one thing. You can't put on 2 things on there.
Right.
Right? And so every time you open a new browser, it's there right in front of you, and it just kind of helps you focus on that one thing. You can't put your whole entire to-do list on there.
Right.
Which is good, right? And once you finish that one thing, then you can add another thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I love it. It's just a great visual reminder. We'll put this in the show notes as well.
It's free.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good. So cool. This has been a good podcast. I have to get going, Cory. I have a call in 5 minutes, an important call. But I think the main thing is go back to this podcast to the very beginning and think about those 9 tips, 8 or 9 tips that we gave you, and don't beat yourself up. All right, don't beat yourself up. Try some of these tools that we talked about. The Focus at Will is a great subscription service. They also have a good app. There's this BeFocused. They have a free version and a paid version. And I was just looking at it here. The Pro version is only $1.99, right? And it's got really good reviews. You can use it on your phone or your watch, your Apple Watch. But get the big rocks. Focus on just one thing at a time. If you've got one major thing that you can do a day, you'll accomplish way more than somebody who has 4 things to do in one day. You know?
Right.
Important to stay.
Absolutely. There's another app they call Productive app. I forgot to mention that I do use. I've been using it more. Joe, we'll put that in the show notes as well. And that's a very good one because it already has things built in as a templates that are already for most common things that people kind of struggle with: drinking water, doing exercise, things like that. Gives you stats and whatnot. But we'll put that one in there too. So good podcast. This is a hot topic. I'm always excited about any way that we can be more productive.
Well, yeah, and you know what? If you want to be more productive listening to podcasts, real quick, my favorite podcast app is called Pocket Casts.
I love Pocket Casts.
And I don't know what's going on with Apple Podcast app, but it's horrible. With the new update they're coming out with the operating system, the new iOS 11, I think it is, hopefully they'll get a better podcasting app. I've heard about that. But if you like this show, leave us a review in iTunes. Just don't use their app. Leave us a review in iTunes if you like the show. Subscribe to it. Tell your friends about it. And get our top 10 favorite tech tools. If you text the word tech to 38470 or go to therealestatetechshow.com, and we'll get that over to you. And we're going to have all of our links and things that we talked about on this podcast in the show notes at the website. And cool.
I like Cast a lot because it's on the browser and you can speed it up.
Yeah.
In 5 seconds here. You should check out Breaker though. If you haven't checked out Breaker on your iPhone for a podcast app, it is a very big contender with Cast. But I absolutely love Cast on my browser, but I don't listen to Cast on my iPhone. I listen to it on my browser. But Breaker is what I listen to on my iPhone. So
I'll check it out.
All right.
Hey, thanks.
Awesome.
See you guys.
See you
Take
guys.
care.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Tech Show with Cory and Joe. Make sure you download Cory and Joe's toolkit by going to realestatetechshow.com or texting the word tech to 38470. And don't forget to leave a review of this podcast on iTunes or Google Play and share it with your friends on your favorite social media platforms. We appreciate you listening.